mercy on me. Yeah, I got woke up at like 3:49. Couldn't get back to sleep. Figured, what the fuck else am I gonna do? What? Sleep for like an hour? That ain't gonna happen. So I ordered some of the more of that old Niagen. I do feel like it does something, but it probably just gives you cancer. So more cancer. The more the better. Mm. Man, those days keep sneaking up on us. If we can get through 20 pages today, we'll get up to that average of 10 pages a day, which would be fucking stellar. I had kind of a bad night last night. Some personal shit that I can't really get into. But yeah, like it's neither here nor there. We'll use it for the quality of the art here. Otherwise, things are good. Life's a-okay in the hood right here, considering staying home from work today. Not for any like particular reason, just who wants to go to work? You hear me? All right, what do we got here? Let me pull up our main feed. It is January 28th. 3 more days. We can have a whole new month right here. It's been a pretty fucked up January. Obi-Wan and Darth Vader porn. I guess that's one of the spots where you could jack off to. I can't really stop you. Let me see. So I think pretty soon, yeah, we're about 3 or 4 chapters away from like the fuck fest in this story. And when we hit that fuck fest, I'm probably gonna have to stop. I need like a little bit more magic in my life to make that happen. But yeah, let's get down to it. I'd like to get through 20 pages today if we can. That's like about double the amount that I normally do, so we'll probably have to do it in a couple of different sessions. But that's what we hit yesterday, because we're fucking for real. Yesterday, really interesting chapter. I realized that I had the numbering wrong too, so we actually skipped right over chapter 67 and then went to straight into chapter 70 there, so I didn't even get to make any fucking puns or anything. But let me see. Oh, god damn it. I forgot to shoutouts to LRH, which is now at like, it's getting closer to like 300 people all the time. That's fucking insane. I have no idea why there are 300 people in there. That's super wild. Let me see. Book needs more cat boys. I don't know, man. I'm not down with that furry shit. Ooh, okay. So as I was posting the edit yesterday, I realized. So Crypty says, "I'm gonna roll a joint and watch Load edit this science fiction novel." I guess. Hell yeah. It isn't furry until you put on cat ears and go to anime cons and normalize Nazi ideology. Huh. Yeah, you keep with that. I'm gonna take a pass on that one right there. Is that a real gun? It's highlighted because the note there is work on people's reactions, and it's important to see like what their emotions are in the scene, because everybody's just like, "Is that a gun? What the fuck?" Mm-hmm. Mm. Let me see. The R name could be Rahim. I think we already did that. Yeah, what do we give him? No, we went with Guy Wright right there. God, how far back are you in this shit? So when two character arcs meet, do they make a character arch? Well, they'd have to meet at about the same point in their arc. Um, it would have to be somebody like time traveling in reverse, like fucking Merlin from The Sword and the Stone. So let's see. Apparently Chinese citizens are getting arrested for spreading fake news about the Wuhan virus. Man, Wuhan clan is nothing to fuck with. Mm-hmm. She pulled up the text with the pistol and showed Dan and the rest of the table. Everyone had been so careless just a minute ago. Now a ring of furious faces surrounded her. I like that description of just like a ring of faces. Like I can immediately picture that, even though it's like a very, it's not a lot of so Crypto says carefree instead of careless. I don't, I'm not 100%. Let's try it. Everyone had been so carefree just a minute ago. Now, or yeah, because careless has like this other connotation. Honestly, like both of them. What we want is something more like goofy than carefree or careless. Oh, there's the R names. Let's try. Kook. No, these are all. Happy would be jovial. That's exactly what I want. Everyone had been so jovial a minute ago. Now a ring of furious faces surrounded her. That feels like a karate movie or something like that. I really like that. Let's see. Mm. So how is? Mm. Mm-hmm. That's too much right there. Yeah, I don't buy the reaction. How many people are there? Hmm. Hmm. Uh, uh, Let me see. That's like that doesn't fucking track. Um. Mhm. Yeah. Hmm. Oh, that I like. So according to Jira, Doom sucks. Yeah, it does suck to be doomed. like how the earth is doomed. It'd be better if we would just be happy and joyous forever. But that ain't gonna happen because the earth is doomed. And I got bad news for you, motherfucker. Real talk. Oh yeah, I'm definitely staying home today. I'm gonna do something with paint. Maybe that'll make me feel a little bit more chill. I rated you with my whole 2 viewers. Hell yeah. Well, shout outs to that. Shout outs to Jiro's viewers. So yesterday, just an FYI, who was it? Chad from the MK Ultra Discord was talking about doing like a morning news show. And I was thinking that we really could do like an hour-long morning news show from like 8 a.m. until fucking 9 a.m. And just have it be like some kind of hour of power thing or something like that, where we could go over news. And I could potentially take calls or something too. I could like have a background behind here and everything. It's possible we could do something like that. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking about the idea. Maybe I'll work on designing a set or something like that. But hmm. What would I even say for an hour? Well, the same thing I say every day for an hour. What a lot of these what a lot of sort of news organizations do. Like, so think about little Ben Shapiro writes an entire fucking script and he reads it off of a teleprompter every day. Right? I don't think that I'm a good teleprompter candidate because a lot of my strength is in sort of freestyling and so forth. What I would love to see is really like what would work best for me is if basically we had like a big screen and then just questions just popped up on it, and on the fly I had to deal. Like, I had a lot of fun doing the AMA or whatever. So it would just be maybe like reaction based news or something like that. And I should probably just get like a real drunk or like a black dude that's smoking like a shit ton of weed, like had like the fucking dread bag and a giant joint or something like that, to just be the counterpoint of what some blazed ass motherfuckers think about the news, right? And I could wear like a suit and give like this super authoritarian, well, I believe that fiscal policy dictates that, and like, and then the dude would be like, man, miss me with all that bullshit. That's super duper racist, but I think it would also be kind of a hit because people are super duper racist. And we could just change the joke to me would be, you would give the person in the like blazed as fuck category, you would have him be like a rotating cast of people. Like one morning he would be that like dreaded up, blazed up, homeless looking guy. And then the next morning it would just be like a rotund, short, pink haired woman who was super into social justice. And the next morning it would be like some frat bro who like had the 77 pack of Natty Ice sitting next to him. But you would just always call them Joe, whoever they were, and act like they were the same person. But so Jared's like, black people be like, do, 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 do. White people be like, dee, 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 dee. You know. I love it. Yeah, honestly. But I mean, who am I going to get to show up at 8 a.m. every morning to be on a retarded news show? Yeah, I think as with everything else, I'll just have to come up with a format that works for me on my own. Because like the thing about a lot of the work that I do is that I'll show up every day. I do the other show every single week. I do this every day, right? I'll always show up, but it's at my studio, so it's not hard for me to get over here. Um, Other people will not always show up. In fact, I've noticed that other people will very seldom show up for like a stupid YouTube video or something like that. Like I can get Vicodin to come through like once a quarter or something like that. And shout outs to that guy. But yeah, like I don't know. Maybe I'm not fun to hang out with or something like that. But oof, I feel like I'm always down to put together some kind of content or something like that. And the vast majority of my friends are not in on that shit for real. But anyhow, new show. Oh, I do like that premise where you just have like a different wacky person in like a couple times a week or whatever, and you just always call them the same name. Uh, uh, oh, I don't know. I never found that joke like particularly funny, Jira. Yeah, I don't know. But I didn't know it was a joke. No, I don't have any fucking pictures of pears up in here. I don't know what's up with that lady, but there may be a reason why we're not together to this very day. But I digress. But yeah, there's zero pictures of fucking pears. The only pear art that I would have in here is okay, so there's a cover of The Unbearable Lightness of Being that had a pear on it. Lightness of Being an Infertile Woman? God. So there's that hat. Oh God, I would never want to see a let me see if there's a comparison of all the covers. So this hat has been a frequent theme in The Unbearable Likeness of Being, but there was also a cover that had a more abstract thing happening with it. I wish there was like a database of all book covers or something. I'm sure that possibly there is. Um, but yeah, I'm not seeing it. It might just be that I'm misremembering it, and that. But there are just so many. There's so many different uh, covers that you can get a hold of. Alas, you shan't find it. The Unbearable Lightness of Boring. Mm-hmm. Hmm. On the other side, Dan's face had gone blank. His hands were balled into his fists, and his shoulders were rising and falling as he seethed. I'll kill him. Freya could almost hear it. Hmm. Hmm. There was no unity, but Freya could hear him thinking it as surely as if he'd shouted, "Ah, this is exactly what I wanted." Um, so Freya pulled up the text with the pistol. Freya pulled up the text message with the pistol and showed Dan and the rest of the table. Still here, please continue. We're going to continue no matter what. I've been doing this for 55 days straight. I don't know that I could even stop if I tried. Oh, god damn. What do we have here? Freya pulled up the text message with the pistol. The image of the... Oh, this is better. Freya pulled up the threatening text. She pulled up the threatening text on her phone. As she swept the screen around the table in an arc, Freya watched postures stiffen. The image of the pistol hit her friends like a ray. I'd been so jovial a minute ago, and now a ring of faces, of furious faces, surrounded her. I'd been so jovial a minute ago. Now a ring of furious faces surrounded her. At once everyone was talking, uttering threats, exclaiming disbelief, condemning the police. Uttering threats and exclaiming disbelief. Only Freya and Dan were silent in the clamor. At her side, Dan's face had gone blank. His hands were balled into fists, and his shoulders were rising and falling as he seethed. At her side, Dan's face had gone blank. His hands were balled into fists, and his shoulders rose and fell as he seethed. I'll kill him. There was no unity, but Freya could hear him thinking it as surely as if he'd shouted it. There was no unity, but Freya could hear Dan thinking it. Thinking as surely as if he were shouting. Is that a real gun? Riley asked. I think so, Freya said. I can't read the writing on the barrel. Let me see, Brad Cale said, and she slid him the phone. That's a Ruger SP-101. It's a 5-shot 357. It's real, Brad confirmed. He and his father owned a small arsenal of weapons. Okay, cool. So that, yesterday as we were posting up the story, I realized that we needed to make that change. So let's go. Freya had never seen him so angry. Okay, cool. So they do a little better job of reacting to the fact that there is, like this guy is sending her like essentially a death threat. And you can see that the scene was initially written for much lower stakes, right? I think they like mentioned something about the garage. And what we found, or what I found, is later in the story, we just had not elevated the stakes enough for him to take some of the actions that he takes later on in the story. So we kind of have to build towards what's happening there. And the biggest, like I like that we're through the reactions of the other characters, kind of explaining like, hey, now this is a problem, you know, like now we got to fucking do something here. And yeah, I'm like, I like how that turned out for the most part. So we do still need to go back and add another inciting incident. And like now that we're working on tuning, let's go back a few different chapters. Okay, so the death threat comes in this morning when she gets her phone back. So that could happen anytime between, it needs to come in at like 3 a.m. But literally like the thing can happen like anytime between a few days back and so forth. So let's try and find. Oh, you know what we'll do? Right here in the parking lot. All right, so that's her and Dan. Okay. Okay, so chapter 62. So probably chapter 61 is where we would say something about the Malcolm Lewis thing. Espionage. So there's the death. All right, so there's her wondering if it's Malcolm Lewis. Okay, cool. So I think here we'll add. Let's see. So here she's talking about the home internet. Heidenkerno. Okay, so not there. Mm. The best books are edited on WordStar. Yeah, I'm a big fan of WordPerfect myself. Can you imagine trying to edit something in Open Office? Everything that you touch immediately becomes property of Richard Stallman. Ugh. Ugh. Ridiculous. Been doing all my writing tasks on an ancient Mac laptop lately, running ClarisWorks, no internet distractions, and a good keyboard too. Um, yeah, honestly, like 2015 are the last good Mac keyboards. Um, so one thing that I'll tell you is that if you're doing that on like there's no internet on it and running ClarisWorks or whatever there, you have to be backing up every day. It has to be part of your process or something like that. And I am willing to bet that the last time that you backed that story up was like more than a week ago or something like that. Because if you lose more than a day of writing, the temptation is going to be there to just give up the entire fucking project. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. Because I've been there. I've lost like entire fucking stories and so forth. So as tempting as it is to be like, oh, I'll get rid of all these distractions and get rid of the internet and so forth. The reason why we're editing in iCloud right now is just because they do a really decent job of having fucking backups. Backups are so important, like more important than anything else. Yeah, it's just that. Yeah, it's like that was the nice thing about fucking typewriters is like your house had to burn down for you to lose your manuscript, or a dog had to eat it, or something like that. Um, mm. Wait, hold on. Okay, never mind. Would they have like a Whole Foods or something? Like what would be there? Oh, is that what all the zip drives on your desk are all about, Jira? Fucking backing up zip drives to your uh, MacBook running like OS X9 or something like that. God. Use mini discs because again, no internet. Wow. I'm back. Apple jumped the shark when they failed to call the 10th OSX the OSXX. Oh, that would be fun to say 50 fucking times a day. Unfortunately, no. It was parked outside of Earth Fair. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Maybe. Mm-hmm. 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 Let me see. So yeah, we're here. We're trying to insert a little bit of sort of uncertainty into the process. Um, let's see. Mm. Okay. So would it be more natural to refer to him as his mother, his father, instead of the mother and the father? Um, it's natural for somebody who isn't involved in the legal system. Um, but if you listen to the way that lawyers talk, very frequently I'll hear them say, lawyers and social workers and so forth, I frequently hear them be like the mother, the father, the caregiver, or whatever, rather than using a pronoun before it. And that's just something that I've noticed from talking to legal people. It may not be consistent throughout, but I think that's a little bit more like a lawyer would talk about it. And if you are a lawyer, feel free to correct me right there. The real question here though is because we uh maybe uh mm, mm. He'll probably blame me for getting his car towed. What happens when they find him? He won't be able to get bail, right? Maybe. The mother is cooperating, but the father is fairly well connected in town, and he lawyered up immediately. He could be a problem. Okay, cool. Uh, mm, mm. Hmm. Yeah. Okay, so Spaethiwa triumphs yet again. Hmm. Okay. Give me actually a second and I shall return. Oh my god. So boring. All right, what do we got here? Hold on just a second. Oh, maybe that I didn't need to ban that guy. Yeah, dude was just kind of annoying there. Let me see. Nora has been very reasonable. She's cooperating with the police. Mm-hmm. They're in the middle of a fairly acrimonious divorce. The mother, Nora, is a very pragmatic woman. I've spoken with her. She understands what Malcolm did, and she's disgusted. It's actually a little heartbreaking. They're in the middle of a fairly acrimonious divorce. The mother, Nora, is a very pragmatic woman. I've spoken with her. She understands what Malcolm did, and she's disgusted. It's actually a little heartbreaking. It takes a lot to get to where your own mother won't defend you. The father may be a problem. Let me see. Mm-hmm. The father could be a problem. He won't talk with me. He lawyered up immediately, and I get the feeling he's part of why they haven't found Malcolm yet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The father could be a problem. He won't talk with me. He wouldn't talk with me. Neither he nor his lawyers will talk with me. I get the feeling he's part of why they haven't found Malcolm yet. So Lumberjack Brad says that this is a... Oh, shit, I see Marcus Summers right up there. Gray Block Pizza Hitter. up in the stream. Yeah, it's pretty niche. We're editing a science fiction novel. This is my eighth novel. We've been at this for 55 days straight. And we just hit, what are we? We're at like page 450. Oh, no, we're not at page 450. We're at like page 530 out of 800 there. And so, yeah, if you ever wanted to see what editing a science fiction novel is like, it's a lot of this kind of furrowed brow, staring intensely at the screen, trying to figure shit out. it's it's been a tough grind, but the book's coming along pretty well, honestly. I have a sneaking suspicion that I'll be able to sell this one to. I have a publisher in mind for it, and it would fucking make my year if they picked it up. So here's hoping. But yeah, I've actually taken a few classes in audiobook narration. And at some point, I want to narrate my own books. I've been building a recording studio in my attic, but I just have not been successful thus far at getting like a quality recording and sound. And I need like a ton of practice to be a good narrator. Part of why we're doing the stream like this, where I'm like reading each line aloud and trying to like act out some of the roles and so forth, is to practice and become a better audiobook narrator. Because yeah, I have a lot of work to go, especially with like accents and nailing character voices and so forth. Maybe I'll work on it today. Mm. Mm. Get the feeling Grady Lewis. Oh yeah, yeah. Let's see. There we go. Yep, there was indeed I would wager Grady Lewis is a big part of why they haven't found Malcolm yet. Wouldn't he get in trouble for sheltering a fugitive yet? He would, and that's probably why Malcolm is sleeping in his car. I'm sure he's not thrilled about this either. I'm sure he's not thrilled about his son's crime spree. Mm. Whew. He won't. He would. And that's probably why Malcolm is sleeping in his car. Grady isn't stupid. I'm sure he's not thrilled about his son's crime spree. Mm-hmm. Hate to be that guy about what's going on. Oh, that's totally fine. Okay, so to just summarize real quick, Gravid is the story of a young woman who discovers an alien probe in a meteorite. And the story has a lot to do with sort of telepathy. The probe is able to create a mental bridge between two people. One of the subplots in the story is that the young woman who's our protagonist is being essentially stalked by an estranged boyfriend. And that's this character, Malcolm Lewis, right here. So what we're doing is developing that subplot, the Malcolm Lewis subplot, because in the initial draft of the story, we escalate like very far as to that plot later in the thing, but it's not really justified by the previous actions right here. Like the Malcolm Lewis is like a 18-year-old kid and manages to elude the police for about 2 or 3 weeks. They don't catch him, and we need to justify like why they haven't picked him up. I mean, it's a relatively small town. It's not impossible to track somebody down, but Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So individuals are just as isolated and atomized in modern small towns. It's not as easy to find someone as back in the day, ironically. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I've lived in some small ass towns, and um, like it's not difficult for the police to like run down the shitty guy, like the dude that's dealing pot or whatever, or the guy that beat up his girlfriend or whatever. It's never that difficult for them to pick him up. It's just they a lot of the time they don't want to pick that dude up. Like if they run him in, they got to do a bunch of fucking paperwork and so forth, and they can just wait until somebody does something stupid, and then they pick him up because he's got like a tail light out or he fucking passes out under an underpass or something like that. Like I don't know. Like I think a lot of why it's not super difficult to find anybody that you can get a cell phone warrant for at this point. It's just like got him. But you're not going to go to that trouble for somebody who's like selling like a quarter of weed or something like that. In this case, the character would be wanted for questioning in an assault that was like fairly serious that put somebody in the hospital, which would uh, be like a assault with a deadly weapon, or aggravated battery or something like that. So it's like a reasonable enough case that they would try to pick this dude up. And we're just trying to justify the fact that he hasn't been picked up yet. Let me see there. So I work for a rural sheriff's office. Actually, probably not going to spring for a cell phone warrant. They'll try and find out what he's driving, and as you said, pull him over for a tail light. Oh, that's actually kind of interesting. Like, yeah, what part of the country are you doing rural sheriff stuff in? I used to live like way out in the fucking sticks in Northern Virginia for a while there, and my interactions with law enforcement were less than ideal. I want to say right there. Um, so you don't think that they would spring for a cell phone warrant for? So actually, earlier in the book, in actually in 3 chapters later, the another character who is like a systems administrator or something says like, well, this guy. So he sends a death threat, and he's like, why haven't they picked him up yet? They can triangulate his location very easily with with this. They can just get a warrant. And the protagonist, Freya, is like, oh, that'd be nice. Because she doesn't expect that the police will do anything at that point. So that's great. That kind of tracks with the whole thing there. Let me see. I'm sure he's not thrilled about his son's crime spree. But I bet he hasn't cut him off either. Okay, cool. Oh shit, Louisiana. Yeah, I'm from New Orleans. Believe it or not. And I'm posted up at the 911 off 911 at the 911 office answering phone, not out busting folks. Well, good on you there. Yeah, I used to live in New Orleans for a long time. I used to drive my motorcycle out to the Bear Terrier Preserve and give people swamp tours. I worked at a hotel in the French Quarter. Rich guy in a small town definitely goes to church and attends functions for the glad handing. Probably has a big stake in church politics, and it's totally a thing, as well as owning a vast amount of property in the country. Okay, so this story is unfortunately set in Maine. So church is not going to play the same factor that it would in the South, right? Even this is, and this wouldn't be you wouldn't see it as like a rural farm type town because up there in that part of the country, it's mostly forests surrounding them. So so they're not going to be the same kind of like agrarian structure there. It's going to be more of a kind of like a little bit more like subdivisions and like if I had to guess what this guy does, he probably has a owns like some kind of road repair company or something like that. Um, so, but yeah, and we haven't really involved religion at all in the story there, because the Northeast is like fairly godless when it all comes down to it. But the idea of him owning a lot of land is very da, da, da. Okay, cool. So I think here, let me read through this chapter that we've just done here. So Lynn brought 2 mugs to the table. I have a little good news, Lynn said, sliding Freya a mug. Last night the police found Malcolm Lewis's car. Not him, though? Unfortunately, no. He was parked outside of Earth Fair. They think he'd been sleeping in it. It's been impounded. They impounded it. I guess the next time he wants to spray paint the house, he'll have to take the bus. Hopefully there won't be a next time. They're getting closer, at least. He'll probably blame me for getting his car towed. What happens when they find him? He won't be able to get bail, right? Mm-hmm. He most likely will be able to get bail. How well do you know his parents? I only met his mom a few times, never his dad. The Lewises are in the middle of a fairly acrimonious divorce. The mother, Nora, is a very pragmatic woman. I've spoken with her. She understands what Malcolm did, and she's disgusted. It's actually a little heartbreaking. It takes a lot to get to where your own mother won't defend you. Freya nodded, thinking of Lasse. The father is the problem. Neither he nor his lawyers will talk with me. I would wager Grady Lewis is a big part of why they haven't found, I would wager Grady Lewis is a big part of why the police haven't caught Malcolm yet. What? Ugh. Wouldn't he get in trouble for sheltering a fugitive or something? He would, and that's probably why Malcolm is sleeping in his car. Grady isn't stupid. He won't put himself at risk. I'm sure he's not thrilled about his son's crime spree, but I bet he hasn't cut him off either. Okay, so now I worry that we've gone too far into exposition and potentially upset some of the tenor of the chapter here. I have a tiny bit of good news, Lynn said, sliding Freya a mug. Last night the police found Malcolm Lewis's car. Not him, though. Unfortunately, no. It was parked outside of Earth Fair. They think he'd been sleeping in it. They impounded it. I guess the next time he wants to spray paint the house, I'll have to take the bus. Hopefully there won't be a next time. They're getting closer, at least. I bet he'll blame me for getting his car towed. What happens when they find him? He won't be able to get bail, right? He'll most likely be able to get bail. How well do you know his parents? I only met his mom a few times, never his dad. The Lewises are in the middle of a fairly acrimonious divorce. The mother, Nora, is a very pragmatic woman. I've spoken with her. She understands what Malcolm did, and she's disgusted. It's actually a little heartbreaking. It takes a lot to get to where your own mother won't defend you. Freya nodded, thinking of Lasse. The father is the problem. Neither he nor his lawyers will talk with me. I'd wager Grady Lewis is a... Do we have another wager? I just want to make sure that we don't use wager twice there. The father's the real problem. The father is the problem. Neither he nor his lawyers will talk with me. I'd wager Grady Lewis is a big part of why the police haven't caught Malcolm yet. What? What do you mean? I'm sure SPD wouldn't ignore Malcolm if they saw him walking down Thoreau Street, but they probably aren't putting a lot of effort into finding him either. Ugh. That's so gross. Wouldn't he get in trouble for sheltering a fugitive or something? He would, and that's probably why Malcolm was sleeping in his car. Grady isn't stupid. He won't put himself at risk. I'm sure Grady's not thrilled about his son's crime spree, but I bet he hasn't cut him off either. Great. I'll take care of it. For now, we need to talk about what we're going to say and what we're not going to say before we talk to Heidenkernu. There we go. Gotta be nice, though, because I work for the parish. Yeah, I think the property thing is a great note. It really does have like a lot to do with how the law, how everything is kind of enforced in town, like who owns what. Everybody knows, man. Let me see. Let me see. Hmm. Mm. Great, Freya said, wishing Lynn hadn't even mentioned Malcolm. Okay, cool. So that's like an important little bit of justification here. Hopefully the chapter tracks okay with that. But all right, Command Control G. We're gonna go to page 550. We're gonna go to page 530. There we go. Oh shit! Actually, we need to go back to where were we at right there. We gotta go back here because we added a little to the chapter. When we did that, we upset our pagination, and so we want each chapter to begin on a new page. So we just have to make that minor adjustment right there, and then we can go back to Control G for 530. Zipping around on this motherfucker. Okay, so now we can finally get to Does anybody in this story have a cat? No, there are no cats in this story, which is funny because, like, if you, I thought about this a little bit. In Norse mythology, Freya has the goddess has 2 cats, but I don't like cats, so I'm not putting them in the fucking story. Mm. It was kind of like a little extreme. I don't like cats, so I'm not putting them in the fucking story. I'm not really that conflicted about the whole thing. No, man, we just swelled up a page. We're almost at 800 pages there. 0 of 10. As Dan's Toyota warmed up in the, I don't think there's even a dog in the story. Yeah, there are no animals in this story whatsoever, except for people who are the real animals. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's even like a snake or like a lizard or. There were some deer early in the thing, but it's just not. It's not an animal-focused story at all, which may be a mistake. Okay, so I'm going to look at chapter 71. Boom. We did go back to the previous chapter. We added the emotions that we wanted to the reveal of the threat. This like subplot, it's not even a subplot. It's like a major plot arc. It began as a subplot, and then later in the story, the plot arc became more important. So that's why we're doing some of this revisionist history right here and going back and sorting out some of these things there. As Dan's Toyota warmed up in the parking lot. As Dan's Toyota warmed up in the parking lot, Freya couldn't help but scan for some sign of Malcolm's car. Okay. When they got back in, oh, okay, yeah, so. Mm. Oh, so we got Yuri Petrov says, wow, we're still editing this novel. Yeah, we've been doing it every day for 55 days. And I would estimate that it will take about 100 days to complete the edit. So we have 45 days of this left to go. And then I am going on a vacation. You better believe it. I was paranoid, but she couldn't help it. How many pages are we editing in a day? So 100 days. So currently, we edit about 10 pages a day. We're like a little under. Right now, the average is about 9.2 pages, because we've been going for 55 days, and we have 530 pages done. All right, before the end of today, I would love to get 20 pages of this edit done, and then we would be at exactly 10 pages a day, and then we could make that our goal. Yeah, it's quite a few pages in this novel right there. As we get later in the book, that average will drop, right? Because we'll have to do more rewriting. I think parts of the ending will get rewritten completely. Rewriting is like much, much slower than just editing, right? You could see, like we probably spent like an hour adding that paragraph there and making the changes to, in fact, we spent, we began the stream at about 4 o'clock. So we spent about 2 hours just making 2 significant changes. Revision and adding things is going to be like much more time intensive than just making tweaks to sentence structure and so forth. Just because of the nature of how writing works, it's more difficult to add something in and make it fit, and then go back and make all the changes. Like in a way, editing a novel is a little bit about time travel. When you edit something in the future, you have to go back all the way into the past and change all the instances of what happened. And the earlier that you make an edit too, the more places that it has to ripple out and so forth. And it can just become very, very complicated to make all those changes. And there's a lot to keep in mind. So after our initial rough draft was completed, I made a document where I'm like, these are all the things that we want to change. These are all the character arcs that we'd like to change. And even so, like we'll have introduced some consistency errors right there. So I like the idea of editing a long novel as a kind of time traveling. And I fucking hate time traveling. It's my least favorite science fiction thing. I almost never want to read any story that has time travel in it, unless it's just like Terminator. And like Terminator is okay, like 1 and 2, because they don't spend a ton of time on the time travel subplot. And every Terminator after that, where they try to justify like their bullshit confabulations, garbage. Oh, rough. But yeah, I don't like almost any time travel story. Like fucking, they never make sense. Um, oh yeah, so this is a lot of tell not show right here. Okay, before she got back in. All right, yeah, this whole paragraph needs work. Mm. Hmm. She imagined a sound. Okay, so as they left China House, Freya's eyes darted around the parking lot, scanning for anything out of place. Was that shadow Malcolm crouching behind a car with the pistol? Was he hiding in the back seat of the Toyota? Maybe he was on the roof with a rifle. Mm-hmm. She knew she was being paranoid and ridiculous, but she couldn't stop. Until Brad suggested she get out of town, the threat hadn't seemed real. Now it was all Freya could think about. She imagined a soundless shot, just a flash on the quarter of her vision, too quick to react. Mm-hmm. Let me see. So Yuri says, I had an idea of a time-traveling novel. You can use it if you want. A police officer stops a weird-looking car in modern days. Driver has no ID card or document, and he has some sort of time machine to avoid being arrested by the police officer he sent in his deep past. So, police officer equipped with a gun should survive somewhere in the past. Oh, so it just sends a police officer with a GAT back into the past. So there's actually there's a whole series. I know the guy who was the publisher is a guy named Eric Flint. He owns Bane books, or maybe he's like the publisher or something like that. But he's part of a book called Bane. Their big series is a series called 1631, and it's about a West Virginian coal mining town from the 1950s. The entire town is transported back and plonked into, I think, like Poland in the year 1631, and they have like the entire town, like all the pickup trucks and the mattresses and the houses and everything. It's just bloop, right in the middle of Europe, and the story is all about how the people in the West Virginian town like set up defenses, and they decide to conquer Europe with their modern day knowledge. And it's about how, you know, they don't have spring steel in 1631, so they're doing like things like taking the springs out of their mattresses to make the springs for the magazines of their the automatic weapons that they're building and so forth. It's really amazing. Oh, shout outs to Nate Fo08 right there. Welcome to the stream right there. So there are a bunch of like sort of neat fish out of water time travel stories, which is like one of the spots where the genre is really interesting. But yeah, it's where you get into the mechanics of like ripples through time and so forth. Shit makes my head hurt, man. But yeah, so anybody who tried to write a book, just keep in mind that writing is like a very slow process, right? It takes a lot of time, and I think a lot of people aren't prepared for the amount of labor that's involved. Like this book took 3 years to write. It's going to take a third of a year to edit, and the process of trying to sell it to a publisher could take as much as like a year. If I have to put this out myself and pay to get it edited, it'll probably cost me $6,000 or $7,000 to get this edited by a professional. And then it will probably take me about 80 hours to typeset the entire manuscript. We'll spend like 10 hours or so on graphic design and like setting up a website and so forth. And then the marketing is like almost a full-time job to market something like this. So it's a tremendous amount of time. And that, like, one of the sad things about writing is like the first book that you write is often not a good book. Because it just takes so long to like learn how to write. I really think it takes about 10 years to get any kind of good at it. Yeah, no idea what you're getting into. What I always recommend to people is like, one, I think writing is fucking fantastic. I think it's one of the greatest hobbies that you can have. It's free. It's always satisfying. You get better at it the longer that you do it. It doesn't matter if you're getting older. It's not like I could be amazing at basketball, but the older I get, the worse I'm going to be at basketball. Not the case with writing. The older you are, the more powerful you are in the craft. And there's something very satisfying about continually getting better at something and building up a whole thing. So I thought, wow, I have a good idea for a book, and it just fizzled out. So the part of getting to where things don't just fizzle out is, one, like about a quarter of the ideas that I have for books, they fizzle out, right? You just get about halfway through and you're like, I don't really know where to go with this. And you just stop writing or whatever. My school of thought on writing is that you have to write every single day. Like I literally, in a year, I will do some kind of writing or editing probably about 350 days out of a year. And like ideally I would do it at 365. I don't like taking days off, but sometimes you just have to. Like if you're sick or in hell or whatever, in jail. And a big part of having like a continual practice there is that you're not going to write something amazing every day, but if it is a day where you could write something amazing, you'll be there and you'll have that chance, and you'll have put in so much practice on all the other writing that you'll be in good shape for when that comes around. So hell yeah. All right, what do we got right here? Yeah, this is it sucks because like I know you can tell right away when a chapter is going to be tough work. So we're probably not going to get through our 20 pages today, but we're going to try. We've made good changes anyway. Anyhow, yeah, like what I always recommend to people is if you want to get into writing, definitely start with short stories. Try to like just set your goal on like I want to have a 6,000 word short story. If you'd like to write stories that get published by magazine, by like science fiction magazines, between 6,000 and 8,000 words is the right length for most publications. Stuff like Clark's World and Asimov's and Uncanny and stuff like that. That's about where they want you to be at. You can sometimes sneak in something that's like 4,000 words. You almost never sell something that's 10,000 words to any publication. And 6,000 words is really about 25 pages. So if you think like, what's an idea that I can get across in 25 pages? That's so much easier than trying to write like an entire fucking novel. A novel is a marathon. And most people do not have the stamina to complete that marathon. And at the end of it, like their time is terrible. You know what I mean? Like they crawled for parts of it and so forth. I'm not trying to say that like I have that, that like my marathons are the time is great or anything like that. But I think that I've done it for long enough that I know how to write and complete a novel. As to the quality, we'll have to see. But yeah, really, really the trick is to just, keep doing it every single day. And it just becomes more and more enjoyable. It really was about 10 years in where when I would have an idea, I would feel like I have the power to execute this idea almost every single time. Never feeling like it's like a big strain or like things would be difficult to get. Like if you're trying to convey like an advanced idea, or you really want to get across a sense of something amazing, it's still hard. You still have to try and everything like that, but it's not. You don't feel like you can't do it, and that's an amazing feeling to get over time. So until Brad suggested she get out of town, the threat hadn't seemed real. Now it was all Freya could think about. She imagined the soundless shot, a flash on the corner of her vision, too quick to react to. Next, a red-hot hornet striking her just above her right breast, shattering her rib and piercing her lung. The taste of metal, a jagged ring of agony. That was all Freya could think about. She imagined a soundless shot, a flash on the corner of her vision. Next, a red-hot hornet would strike her above her right breast, shattering her rib and piercing her lung. Let me see. Hold on. That's one magic fucking bullet. If it's hitting her, hitting her right there. Next, a red-hot hornet would strike her right breast, shattering her rib and piercing her lung. There's a mm, mhm. So I don't like this future tense. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Red Hot Hornet does sound a little weird. She's getting pretty elaborate right here. Now was all Freya could think about. She imagined the soundless shot. She imagined a soundless shot, a flash at the corner of her vision, followed by a red-hot hornet striking her in the chest. Been a long time since I've been shot. uh, I'm gonna stick with that right there. It's odd, but I like it. Mm-hmm. You can call it a supersonic hornet. God, that sounds completely stupid. This is a rough fucking paragraph here. Malcolm pops out of the shadows. Vibe check. God damn. The shadow from yesterday morning wasn't a dream. It was an omen of death. A little ham-fisted right here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's try and read through this and see just how horseshit this is right here. As they left China House, Freya's eyes darted around the parking lot, scanning for anything out of place. Was that shadow? Was that shadow Malcolm crouching behind a car with a pistol? Was that shadow Malcolm crouching behind Dan's car with the pistol? Was he hiding in the back seat with a knife? Maybe he was on the roof with a rifle. I like that a little bit better because maybe he was on the roof with a rifle. She knew she was being paranoid and ridiculous, but she couldn't stop. Until Brad suggested she get out of town, the threat hadn't seemed real. Now it was all Freya could think about. She imagined the soundless shot. It would be a flash at the corner of her vision, followed by a searing hornet striking her in the chest. She could picture the bullet shattering her rib, piercing her lung. Her mouth filling with the taste of metal, looking down in shock to find an impossibly huge hole in herself. She would try to breathe and a punctured whine would escape. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's too much. Mm-hmm. Darkness, the river claiming her at last, drowning in her own blood. The dream from yesterday morning was an omen of death. Cool. I like the idea of an omen of death. Hmm. Hmm. Freya shut her eyes tight and shook her head. She was being stupid and self-indulgent. There were no omens and no shadow people. She didn't have the luxury of wallowing in morbid daydreams. Dan would pay the price when they were reunited. That was another complication she hadn't considered. The responsibility to think with someone else in mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a rough page. How long did we spend on that page? Like 30, 40 minutes on that page? Oh, this is the work, boys. Darkness next, the river claiming her at last. As she drowned in her own blood. Where are we going? Dan asked. And she knew he only meant a location, but the question loomed large around her. I don't know, she said, hating the hopeless sound of her voice. Before this morning, she had known the answer to that question. They would go home to her bedroom, tear off their clothes, and dive into each other to become one in body and mind. Their desire had smoldered behind every waking moment for days. But now all she could picture was the finger tapping on the glass, the lingering smell of spray paint in the driveway. She was gripped by a sudden anger, so intense it didn't even feel like her own. There was a shard of Lassa cutting up her insides and making wild demand. Oh, yeah? Yeah, this is so. This prose is purple as fuck. Okay, so yeah, this is a lot of fucking picturing and exposition and so forth in this paragraph there. God damn. Oh. Oh, she's got a. Yeah. Purple prose is just like a way of saying like kind of overwrought, and like you'll see many examples of it in this book. It's just where somebody is like trying too hard to get a point across, and they have like all this vivid and lurid description and so forth, but the reader is just like, fuck this, and they just tune out. Um, so yeah, we'd like to avoid it, but I'm like a little too self-indulgent, and that's why you have an editor come through and edit your works. Even though I'm editing this right now, we're definitely going to have a real editor come through and be like, you don't get to do that. Fuck out of here. They were wasting gas. Before this morning, she'd known the. Before this morning, Freya knew the answer to that question. They would go home to her bedroom, tear off their clothes, and dive into each other to become one in body and mind. Okay, no comma. Desire had smoldered behind every waking moment for days, building in it. Her desire had smoldered behind every waking moment for days, building into an imperative. But now all she could picture was the finger tapping on the glass, the lingering smell of spray paint in her driveway. She was gripped by a sudden anger, so intense it didn't even. A shard of Lassa, demanding revenge. Her thoughts flickered ahead to a plan, texting Malcolm back, calling him a pussy. Texting Malcolm back and taunting him, calling him a pussy. Waiting for his car to come screaming up her driveway and hiding at the kitchen window with the curtains drawn. She pictured him with the Ruger in his waistband, pounding on her front door. Pounding on her front door and screaming. The kitchen window was less than 10 feet from the front door. There was no way she'd missed. She pictured herself emptying Randall's gun into Malcolm's back, continuing to fire through the shattered window as he dropped. No, so shoutouts to Spithiwa, who just woke up from an ASMR nap. Oh god, yeah, we really had to do some heavy tooling up on this chapter. All the chapters are going to get more difficult from this point on. And I say that all the time, but you know, it's just always true. I think we became much more rushed as I tried to complete this book, because like once you get to this point in the novel, I'm like, we got to finish this fucking thing. You know, like 531 pages is already too long for a novel, and there's so many things that I need to wrap up. Mm. She pictured herself emptying Randall's gun into Malcolm's back, continuing to fire through the shattered window as he dropped, bullets striking his still body as he lay in a bloody heap on their welcome mat, the kitchen filling with a haze of smoke. Her hands were curled into tight fists. Mm-hmm. She was certain she could do it. Let me see there. Oh, here and sober. Well done, Logic. Yeah, man. You don't need beer to be queer. You can just do it. What we got going on there? Um. Mm-hmm. 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 It had been a while since she'd been pacified by the orb. It felt unwelcome and unfamiliar. So we could potentially remove curled. Okay, cool. I hate to like have two flashbacks. They're like really flash forwards, right? And I think it's gratuitous to have both of these, like both her imagining. Mm. Freya, Dan said softly. Now we would have to hold another awful part of her. Murder. It was such a stupid plan, but only with the starball working on her could Freya start to realize how stupid. Murder. It was such a stupid plan, but only with the starball working on her could Freya start to realize just how stupid. Mm-hmm. Mm. It was such a stupid plan, but she could only see that when the starball calmed her down. An ambush like that was first-degree murder. It would go terribly for her in court, even with all the stalking. She probed at that idea. Mm-hmm. Hmm. The switch in Lhasa that had flicked on and shattered Patricia Dowd's orbital and headbutted her into the hospital was in Freya too. Once it was thrown, there was no turning it off. Freya. Dan's voice grew more insistent. Oh my god, Dan, I'm sorry, Freya whispered, and he blinked in confusion. She had to remind herself that he didn't know what was going on. She had to remind herself he didn't know what was in her head yet. It's going to be a rough download, she said, grimacing at the awkwardness of the phrase, but he nodded, understanding what she meant. I wish we could just make it happen whenever we wanted, Dan said. And for a few hopeful moments they waited, as if mentioning the unity would trigger it. But there was nothing but the sound of the engine and the heater blowing air. Okay, next best thing, Dan said, putting the car in reverse. Freya noticed someone had been waiting for their space for some time. A car full of impatient-looking old women was waiting. A car full of impatient-looking old women was waiting to take their space. Oh, yeah, we should just take that out. Yeah. Okay. Okay, next best thing, Dan said, putting the car in reverse. Yeah, I think we'll just take that out. Like, it's kind of like a neat throwback to earlier where we were talking about how the lot was like so overcrowded and so forth, but I don't think we gain enough to pay for like breaking up the tempo of that. So that's much stronger without that there. Okay, I have to rest my eyes. Let me see, what are we at here? We are at we've been editing for 3 hours. And we got through 3 pages. We're not anywhere near or whatever. Okay. So 3 hours is quite a bit of time to be editing for. And I will burn out my eyes for the day if I just stare at things for so whatever. So we're going to end this here. I always say this, but I would really like to get another round of editing in for the end of the day. But for now, enjoy our outro. Thank you to everybody. Like, yeah, we had some new people come through. Yeah, you're totally welcome here. We do this every single day without fail, and we'll continue to do it until the book is completed. Though we did not get through a great volume of writing in this scene, I think that the changes that we made were like really critical. Really, really like the work that we did in improving people's reactions. I thought that the reactions were kind of stilted and unrealistic before, and I feel like I believe the reactions now, and also the I'm glad that I remembered the note that I wanted to have another inciting incident for why Malcolm was like so pissed off that he then sent a text message with like a gun and everything. You ruined my life. And I feel like the towing of the car is something decent. It doesn't have to be that. We could also add in something about like Jane texting her like everybody hates him now or something like that. So we might justify something else there. All right, but for now, we're going to end the stream for a little bit. I'm going to take some time to rest my eyes, and I may come back later today. Real talk.